My recent obsession with drawing tie-dye clothing has been real, and you guys also seem to share my sort of craziness over this pattern, so here we are today with another tutorial, and this time I'm gonna show you how I draw different types of tie-dye clothing and what are my tips and tricks on how to achieve the best effects. So let's get into it! And also, just before we jump into today's tutorial, a huge thanks to Surfshark VPN for sponsoring today's video. Nowadays, we rely on using internet for pretty much everything. From scrolling through our favorite social media apps to streaming and binge watching Netflix shows, and most importantly, doing our online banking and managing business related stuff. And as we all wish to think that our online presence is safe and secure, I'm afraid that it's really not as good as it seems like. Surfshark VPN is a service that helps you out to protect the information and data you send through internet from being seen by anyone unwanted. Plus, with the Surfshark's HackLock ID protection, you will get alerted anytime someone is trying to break into your email or use your passwords. But one of my absolutely favorite features of Surfshark is that it allows you to access the content that is not available in your country. It's honestly really frustrating that some shows are blocked in certain countries, so to overcome that, just log in with Surfshark to, let's say, Netflix, and you change the country you're accessing the web from, and bam, there you have it! Everything's available for you like it should be on a regular basis. So if you want both the protection and freedom online, you pretty much know what to do. Click the link in the description box and use the code Natalia for not only a 85% off the regular price, but also 3 months of service absolutely for free. Surfshark also offers a 30 days money back guarantee, so there's no risk for you, but I'm really sure that you won't regret checking it out. And thanks once more to Surfshark for sponsoring my today's video. So now it's finally the time to get into the tutorial, and as you can tell, I've prepared those little sketches for today that we're gonna be working on. I decided that we're gonna skip the sketching part because that's not the main focus of the video. The main focus is obviously coloring and creating tie-dye patterns. And here I would say that the most crucial thing when it comes to achieving such pattern on your drawing is using brush markers. And I do realize that these are usually more expensive and some of you might not even own any brush markers, and that's totally fine. I still think that you will be able to achieve such effect with just standard chisel tip and point tip markers, but that will just require a little bit more of work and effort from you. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. I'm gonna be starting off with this oversized hoodie, and as you can tell, I've already started picking my markers, picking the colors, because we're gonna be doing this multicolored kind of spiral pattern. It's not really a typical tie-dye, but it's something like in between. It's gonna be colorful, there's gonna be a lot of blending, and yeah, it's gonna be a really fun thing to do, definitely. So when it comes to picking colors for your tie-dye patterns, I would say that the most safe route you can take are the pastel colors. They blend the best, they blend quite seamless in fact, especially with the brush markers. And all the pastel colors work pretty well together, so you can pretty much do no wrong while choosing pastels. Of course you can use neons or some vibrant colors as well, but this is gonna be just a little bit more difficult, and it's probably gonna be a little bit harder to blend such colors together to achieve this sort of watercolor tie-dye effect. So I'm starting off with coloring the bottom of the hoodie, and we're gonna be just going up in this sort of spiral pattern, mixing kind of all the colors together, but still keeping somewhat of order, I would say. So as you can tell, I'm not pressing my markers super hard, I'm doing those spots quite irregularly, just so we get this sort of watercolor feel. The most important thing while doing any sort of tie-dye pattern is being irregular, I would say. You really don't want to have those spots of the colors symmetrical, you don't want to make them in some sort of order. You really want to, give it this sort of random feeling, but not too random at the same time. I really hope that you guys get what I'm saying. So now that our drawing is looking somewhat like that, we're gonna go in with another essential thing for creating tie-dye pattern, which are the colored pencils. And here I would advise using Prismacolor Premier pencils because these are the most soft pencils and these blend really well and they give us the effect that we're really going for. But of course, if you don't have the Prismacolor Premier pencils, you can use any sort of pencils that you like. But I'm just saying that those pencils that are a little bit softer on the more waxy side, those more buttery ones, will work better for such pattern. So I'm gonna pick the shades that will complement the marker shades that I already laid out on the paper. And I'm picking the ones that are the exact same shade as the marker color, but I'm also picking those that are in between, those more pastel ones and those more intense ones, to create the illusion of depth and dimension in my pattern. And here, if I'm being honest with you guys, there are no rules of how you should apply the colored pencils to your drawing. You basically want to create once more this sort of illusion of watercolor, those splatters of the ink, of the paint on the hoodie. So sometimes you want to press your colored pencil a little bit harder against the paper, and the other times you're gonna be a little bit softer with it, a little bit more gentle, and just put that light coat of pigment on the paper. The trick here and the art supply, let's say, that I've been using to create this sort of watercolory effect is the Prismacolor Premier blending pencil, or whatever it's called. You can see that on the screen right now. I was very skeptical when I was buying it because I really saw no point in such pencil, as I see no point in the blending markers. They really do nothing in my opinion. But yeah, back to the point, I was very skeptical about this pencil, but once I actually got the grasp of it and got the hang of it and I figured out the best way to use it, I actually really started enjoying it and I started to use it more and more, especially while doing tie-dye patterns. So basically, this pencil has this sort of colorless lead and it just makes your pencils blend together better. It leaves this sort of film on the paper, which I'm not a fan of, but it really does its job when it comes to blending the pencils together, and this is the effect that we're going for when it comes to tie-dye pattern. So what I'm doing with this pencil is I'm basically just going over the whole hoodie. I'm not really paying attention to the details that much. I'm just, blending it all together to create this sort of illusion of just paint being splattered around and, watercolor effects. So this is exactly what I'm doing now. And at the very end of the drawing process, when it comes to this oversized hoodie, I'm just adding a little bit of shadows here and there to create those natural foldings of the material. I'm finishing the whole drawing off with some text on the hoodie to give it a more of, chill vibe. And just, put it all together. And this is pretty much how our first colorful pastel tie-dye spiral pattern, that is a mouthful, is finally created. And I honestly really like how it turned out. Next off, we're gonna be coloring this two pieces set, and here I'm gonna go with a little bit more toned down pattern because we're gonna be using only 2 shades of pink. So I'm starting off with the lighter shade of pink, this sort of baby pink color, and I'm gonna just basically create those splatters of color all around the set, and yeah, basically just putting it all over it in random places without any sort of, plan. I just wanted to look natural and not regular. And once I'm pretty happy with the way I placed my splatters all over the set, I'm gonna go in with the darker color, this sort of quite intense pink, I would say. And I'm doing the exact same thing, but I'm just placing those splatters of color in a little bit different places so they don't overlap with the baby pink ones. I'm just, trying to improvise on that and, create something that basically looks good. So once I'm done with the marker coloring, I'm gonna move in with the colored pencils. And probably you're wondering whether using colored pencils is crucial, and honestly I would say yes, but on the other hand, I'm guessing that you would be able to achieve similar effects with only markers, but that would probably require a little bit more of blending and going back and forth with the colors again and again. So yeah, that's just, you know, the option you have, but I really prefer to use some colored pencils on top of it to blend it all together a little bit more seamlessly and just make it all work together a little bit better. So yeah, I'm picking like 2 or 3 shades of pink that I'm gonna be using to, you know, blend this all out. I'm taking a slightly darker shade than the darker pink that I was using. A pink shade that is sort of like in between those 2 colors of the markers that I was using, and something that is just slightly a little bit lighter, so I can use it in the places that there's still a little bit of white spots left to give it the sort of watercolor feel. And here again, there's nothing more than just blending, going in with the colored pencils back and forth until it looks good. And at the end of my coloring process, here goes the same thing that I did with the hoodie. I'm gonna add a little bit of shadows to make everything pop a little bit more. Just add some creases in the clothing to make it look a little bit more natural. Add some shadows, highlights, whatever you feel like. Finish it off with some stitching, with some lining, and yeah, you'll be good to go. And yeah, this is how our 2 pieces pink tie-dye set is finished. And I love how it turned out. How about you guys? And now last but definitely not least, we're gonna move on with the dark tie-dye patterns. So the colors I picked for the sweatpants are going to be blues. And I picked this sort of grayish medium blue tone, and the other one is going to be this deep navy color. I think that these 2 shades are gonna go together so well, and I'm already excited to be coloring those sweatpants. So I'm starting off with the base color, and in this case it's gonna be my medium blue shade. So I'm filling the whole area with this color, and here actually there's no need to be super precise with that. You can see that my coloring is a little bit wonky, but I really don't mind that because we really don't need to have this seamless base of color because we're gonna go with other colors and colored pencils on top of it. And once my base color is there, I'm taking this navy blue marker and I'm basically creating those splatters of ink, splatters of color all over the sweatpants, and I'm just being very irregular with it as it was in those previous designs, so you guys know how it goes. Just do what you feel like looks good, and it's probably gonna turn out really good. Also here, a little tip when it comes to actually creating those splatters of color. Make sure you also create those little spots here and there, and also those sort of ink bleedings around this bigger splatter, if that makes sense, because that will actually give us a more natural effect. And this is also the way those paints or inks, whatever you use to dye your clothing, work on such surfaces. They kind of bleed through the material and they leave those little splatters here and there, so make sure you keep that in mind. And now, once our marker base is ready, we're gonna move in with colored pencils again. And here I'm taking only 2 shades of colored pencils, actually very similar to the marker shades that I was using, so medium grayish blue and this sort of navy deep blue color. And here the same thing as I did in the previous drawing. So I'm enhancing those darker spots with the colored pencils and I'm blending their edges with the lighter pencil. And I'm just basically going over everything to blend it all together and to achieve this sort of watercolory feel. Here I'm paying attention to the edges of the splatters because sometimes with the markers you really can't get those perfect seamless sort of edges, so here's the point where colored pencils actually come in very handy because they can give you this sort of more seamless blending once more, and they can just mix it all together for you. So yeah, I'm repeating the same steps over and over again until I'm satisfied with the result. I'm obviously finishing off this little illustration with some details, with some, you know, creases of the material, some stitching here and there, and in this manner we completed the third illustration showcasing the tie-dye pattern. And that wraps up my tie-dye tutorial. I really hope that this one was helpful for you guys, that you got to know some tips and tricks from me, and that you're gonna improve your drawings with some new cool patterns of clothing. Let me know if you're gonna be using that. I really hope so, because I make those tutorials for you guys, and I really hope that these are helping you improve, and yeah, that you enjoy them. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really love you all. Don't forget to like and subscribe before you leave, and thank you once more for everything. I love you guys so much, and I can't wait to see you in my next videos. Take care, bye.
I'm just going with the gut, never had a doubt, felt like this is just a must. Put me in perspective, I'm the deepest in the cut. Everybody tuning in, but this is just for us now.